Let's chat supplements. So, in this section, we're just going to review some supplements that can be very helpful for specific uses and then briefly touch on which supplements we do not recommend using. We will then cover protein powder, which is technically a supplement, in a separate module, and then we'll also cover progesterone and pregnenolone along with battling estrogen dominance in a part 2 supplement module, since these require a little bit more nuance and specific instructions for dosing. Now, before we begin, the most important point to remember is that you cannot out supplement a poor diet. So, getting nutrients from diet comes first, as what you eat every single day plays the biggest role in health outcomes. Taking a bunch of supplements is not normal or natural, but supplement companies are very good at marketing to make you feel like you need them. So, when someone seeks out supplements as their cure or fix, the bigger question is, why aren't we getting these nutrients from food? The nutrients in food will always be more bioavailable and more beneficial due to the whole food matrix, which is a term that emphasizes that whole foods contain a variety of vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, fiber, and other substances that work together in ways that isolated nutrients or supplements cannot replicate. Now, I'm not saying that supplementation is bad. It can be necessary in some instances, and supplementing some nutrients can help restore proper glucose metabolism. There's still some scenarios where supplementation can be helpful, which I'll discuss. We do not, however, think that a large supplement stack should come before you fix your nutrition, exercise routine, and overall lifestyle. Remember, our great great grandparents didn't really use supplements. This is kind of somewhat of a recent phenomenon. This is also where eating enough food comes into play because it is so much easier to hit the RDA for micronutrients when you're eating an appropriate amount of healthy food versus under eating or eating a bunch of processed food and packaged food. For example, eating above 2,100 calories and eating healthy whole foods, it's almost effortless to hit RDA. This is also just another reason to consume animal protein because it's jam packed with so many essential nutrients, especially B vitamins and fat soluble vitamins. Now, compare this to someone who's eating 1,200 to 1,300 calories. Well, when you're under eating, even if you're eating healthy food, when you're under eating, you aren't taking in as many nutrients. So it can be very hard to hit the RDA. And so you're putting yourself at risk of nutrient deficiencies. Plus, you aren't giving your body sufficient energy. So you hinder digestive function, leading to poor nutrient absorption and assimilation. So just try to have the mindset that when you eat and how much you eat comes first before supplements. Now, if you are someone that's been using a ton of supplements, honestly, you may do better off with less supplements or none and instead focus on improving habits, not fasting all day, eating every 4 to 5 hours, eating enough food for your needs, eating the right types of food, exercising, and stress management. Many have traded the pharmaceutical world of allopathic medicine for the supplement world of functional and alternative medicine. With pharmaceuticals, these were never meant to be taken long term and have never been studied in combination. Well, the same can be said of supplements. Most of the things you're supplementing are already found in your foods, or what you eat allows for synthesis inside of you. So instead of playing polypharmacy and trying to be a chemist looking for a supplement that will fix you, try getting the RDAs from food, so minimally processed, unfortified food, and mineral water for a few months, which can be logged and monitored on Chronometer. With little or no supplements, see how you feel. Plus, supplements are expensive. Instead, spend that money on food. Truthfully, people waste so much money on supplements that are providing zero net benefit. In 2022, Americans spent $165 billion on supplements. You should really be skeptical of your supplements. And yet another thing to remember is that supplements can serve as potential allergens in our digestive tract due to pill ingredients, what the pill is encapsulated in, dyes, fillers, etc. When you take a supplement, it travels through your stomach and intestines where it gets broken down and absorbed into your system. And one more thing on supplements, not every supplement has third-party tested, and there's actually been some recent research showing that Some supplements don't even have anything that they say that they have inside of them. So, again, know where you're spending your money. Make sure that they have proof that that supplement actually contains what they are saying that it contains. Okay, with that long winded intro, let's discuss scenarios where supplements can be useful. And I'll start with a quote from Dr. Broda Barnes, who says, quote, "In hypothyroidism, digestion in the stomach and intestines is delayed. The concentration of acid and enzymes involved in digestion may be diminished. Motility of the gut is reduced and food is propelled more slowly along the track. Absorption through the intestinal wall is slower." End quote. So, again, we're supposed to be getting nutrients from our food. Well, if we aren't digesting our food well, we may not be absorbing some of those nutrients. So, this is a great example. Any reduction in digestive enzymes or thyroid function results in slower and less efficient absorption of nutrients. And there's plenty of correlation between hypothyroid states and intestinal permeability, allowing foods to leak out into the bloodstream. Moreover, some supplements can help us regain homeostasis, regain glucose metabolism, and regain balance after years of chronic dieting, nutrient deficiencies, fasting all the time, low energy availability states, or toxin buildup. However, when we're adding supplements in, it's best to do this very strategically with a plan, because starting multiple supplements at one time or using a large supplement stack presents several challenges. Primarily, it becomes difficult to pinpoint which specific supplements are truly beneficial and if there are any that may actually be harmful, because it can blur the relationship between individual supplements and symptom relief, making it hard to identify which supplement alleviates which symptoms. There's also a risk that one supplement may be negatively affecting you while others inadvertently mask these adverse effects, potentially leading to confusion about the overall impact of your supplement routine. So here are some good principles to use. I've wrote 4 out. First, start one supplement at a time. Second, start the supplement at a low dose, and if you can, spread the dose throughout the day. Another way to say this is called drop dosing. We really don't want to throw the body off by starting off with mega dosing. Instead, potentially start near a physiological dose level, meaning less than or equal to the RDA for that nutrient. Some may need to start with less than the RDA, and some may need more than the RDA over time. But start slow, monitor your reaction, and adjust. Spreading the dose throughout the day can give the cells and various microbiomes multiple chances to have what they need. Also, the body must deal with excess supplements. So, for example, if you take vitamin B3, it must be methylated. So we don't need to just put an extra stress on the body by overdosing at one specific point in time. If it is too inconvenient to drop dose a supplement over the course of the day, no problem. Just take the low end of the amount in one pill or capsule. You can, however, open up many capsules and put the supplements in some water and then sip on that throughout the day, for example, with B vitamins. If you're using something like an organ supplement or oyster capsule, where the recommended dose is like 4 to 6 capsules per day, you could start by taking one per day. You could take one per meal, or open the capsule and sprinkle like 1/3 of it on 3 different meals, for example. Or if you already know that you do well with taking all 6, then maybe try spacing those capsules out throughout the day. Tip number 3 would then be to build up slowly over time if that's needed. And number 4, always recognize that supplement use can be seasonal and shouldn't and doesn't need to be daily for the rest of your life. Another important point to keep in mind, and something that we discussed in the detox module, is that you shouldn't have to feel worse in order to feel better. Some people claim this whole, Herx reaction. I don't agree with that. That is a pharmaceutical term. If you experience negative symptoms, you started off with way too much, or this supplement potentially isn't right for you. So I'd recommend decreasing your dosing and seeing how you do it at a smaller dose, or potentially it really isn't the right supplement for you. So here are a list of supplements that I think some people can benefit from, because they can provide compounds and resources that can help restore energetic, and metabolic function. And again, I'm not saying you need to be on all of these supplements. I'm just reviewing when they can be useful, and we'll go through each of these. But you should never be on a large supplement stack. And when you do add a supplement in, remember, let's add them one by one to see if we have any negative reactions and to assess if the supplement is really doing anything for you. So we'll go through these one by one now. And there are a number of companies that provide good options for all of these supplements. However, if you are looking for some suggestions on specific brands, we do have a supplement sourcing PDF located in the resource section of this module. All right, first up, freeze-dried whole food supplements. So let's start with probably one of my favorite supplements since it's the whole food, just freeze-dried into convenient capsules. So both desiccation, otherwise known as dehydration, and freeze drying are methods of removing water from food to preserve and encapsulate. Dehydration uses heat to evaporate water from food, which can be done through air drying, sun drying, using a dehydrator, which will lead to some nutrient loss. Freeze drying, on the other hand, involves freezing the food first and then using a vacuum to remove the water. And it's generally considered far superior for preserving the nutritional content of foods, but it is a more expensive process. So I would definitely recommend freeze dried whole food supplements if you are looking into one of these options because they'll have the highest level of nutrients, and then they'll also ensure that peptides, minerals, enzymes, and other growth factors and whole food matrix items are preserved. Of course, consuming the food in its whole natural form is best, but these freeze dried whole food supplements are incredibly useful when traveling, if you hate the taste of organs, or if you're unable to source high quality options. First, colostrum. Colostrum is the first form of milk produced by mammals, including humans, immediately following birth for up to 2 to 4 days. It's a thick, yellowish fluid that's rich in antibodies, nutrients, and other bioactive compounds that play a crucial role in the health and development of the immune system. The main benefit as an occasional supplement is that it can support the immune system, can enhance recovery, and boost gut health. So, colostrum is going to be nutrient dense. It's very rich in vitamins and minerals. It's going to be rich in antibodies. So, colostrum is particularly high in immunoglobulins, aka antibodies, especially IgA, IgG, IgM, which will strengthen your immune system. It contains growth factors. So, it has growth factors like IGF-1 and TGF beta that help in the development of the digestive system and other organs. And it's very high in lactoferrin, which is naturally antibacterial and anti-inflammatory with a number of systemic health benefits. So colostrum can be helpful for someone who's getting sick all the time or still having a lot of gut issues. However, this is not something that needs to be taken 365 days out of the year, but perhaps every day for a few months and then assessing efficacy. Remember, it's not really natural for our ancestors to have access to colostrum 365 days year after year. But like I said, they can definitely be helpful to help someone get over an illness or potentially improve their gut health and then assessing if it's still needed over time. If you're looking for sourcing, we like the Heart and Soil grass-fed colostrum and the Mount Capra goat milk colostrum options. Some do better with the Mount Capra since goat milk is a little bit biologically closer to human milk. Next up, whole food organs. I think many of you have heard that liver is nature's multivitamin. So, a freeze dried supplement can be really great covering your bases for B vitamins, copper, retinol, plus a ton of enzymes and minerals. Beef heart, it's super rich in CoQ10, zinc, and B vitamins. And then kidney is a really great option for someone with histamine issues because the freeze drying process will preserve a lot of the DAO enzyme, which is high in kidney, and that'll help you break down histamines in your body. Again, I don't think these are things that you need to take every single day, but if you don't consume organs on occasion, taking these from time to time can really help boost important micronutrients, enzymes, and peptides that are important for energy production and systemic function. Next up, freeze-dried oysters. So as we've discussed throughout the course, oysters are superfoods. But if you can't access oysters regularly, taking a freeze-dried oyster supplement a few times a week is a really great way to boost your zinc, copper, and selenium levels. Now, freeze dried supplements are not cheap, so taking these seasonally or at a frequency that makes sense for you, your health, and your budget is important. All right, next up is B vitamins. B vitamins play a crucial role in energy production. They help support a healthy thyroid, metabolism, lower stress hormones and excess estrogen, improve blood sugar, and can also protect against PUFAs in the body. B vitamins should be consumed or taken daily as they're not stored in the body since they're water soluble vitamins. And obviously, the best form is going to be in food. And we get a lot of B vitamins from dairy, meat, eggs, whole grains like sourdough bread. But there are some circumstances and periods of time where a higher intake is warranted through supplementation to help restore proper metabolic function. And again, it's one of those things can be used seasonally, and I don't think they're a necessity for 365 days. Two B vitamins that many people report to be beneficial to supplement on their own include vitamin B1 and vitamin B3, since they can help restore proper electron flow when someone is in a reductive state. However, gauging individual tolerance is necessary because not everyone needs these. And these B vitamins can push metabolic rate, increase metabolic rate. But if someone is under eating or not eating enough carbs and there aren't enough metabolites coming through, it's like pushing pedal down in the car without any fuel in the tank, potentially making someone feel worse. For example, low carb diets lead to a lower NAD plus to NADH ratio, and these B vitamins work to increase that ratio. Also, when the body is functioning as it's supposed to and someone is eating enough food, your body will have a sufficient amount of these B vitamins, but they can be used in the short term to help restore proper metabolic function if needed. So, vitamin B1, thiamine in particular, has a very crucial role in energy production, specifically proper carb production. So, thiamine is a coenzyme required for the conversion of pyruvate to acetyl CoA in the mitochondria, and it's crucial for linking glycolysis. So, this is where sugar is broken down to the citric acid cycle, Krebs cycle. So, this acetyl CoA produced then enters the citric acid cycle, generating NADH and FADH2, which are essential electron carriers for the electron transport chain. So these electron carriers pass their electrons to complexes 1 and 2, which then powers the chain series of redox reactions leading to ATP production. If you remember in the intro metabolic and whole metabolism section of this course, we talked about, the two different pathways of oxidizing carbs and burning carbs. You've got glycolysis, where carbs do not, the electrons from carbs don't enter the mitochondria, do not enter the electron transport chain. That's glycolysis, and less ATP is generated in that pathway. Thiamine plays a crucial role in making sure that we're moving those electrons into the mitochondria so we can do full oxidative phosphorylation. And so if the citric acid cycle is impaired, ATP production drops significantly, leading to cellular energy deficits. So with low thiamine, oxidative phosphorylation can't be performed. And so the pyruvate cannot enter the mitochondria to be converted to acetyl-CoA. So instead, it's converted into lactate through anaerobic glycolysis, leading to less ATP generation. So long way of saying, when you're trying to improve carb tolerance, you want to make sure that we are doing oxidative phosphorylation. So vitamin B1 supplementation can be helpful since oxidative phosphorylation is heavily reliant on B1. And this is especially so if someone is feeling very tired or fatigued when they're consuming sufficient quantities of carbs. Also, estrogen dominance is a state in particular that can deplete thiamine rapidly, so additional supplementation may be helpful during this time period if someone is in an estrogen dominant state. There are currently no convincing high-quality human trials demonstrating the superiority of any particular thiamine supplement, so it's not worth spending a lot of money on an expensive brand. We just, of course, want to avoid supplements that have a lot of dyes, fillers, or other gut-disrupting ingredients. Vitamin B3, otherwise known as niacinamide, is another very pro-metabolic supplement due to its therapeutic protective effects on metabolism. So vitamin B3 is needed at complex 1 of the electron transport chain, where NADH, this is the reduced form of NAD+, donates electrons. So vitamin B3 ensures that there is a sufficient supply of NAD+, which is essential for continuous electron transfer and maintaining cellular energy production. When someone is in reductive stress with low levels of NADH and NAD+, Vitamin B3 supplementation can help restore proper NAD plus levels. Vitamin B3 is going to lower lipolysis, which will then lead to less free fatty acids circulating in your bloodstream. So again, this can be helpful for someone in a state where they're having a hard time utilizing and burning carbohydrates, because when you lower free fatty acids circulating in your bloodstream, this will improve carb utilization and oxidation due to the Randle cycle. However, we want to be doing lipolysis sometimes. So again, this is not something to take chronically. But if you're fasting a ton and not eating sufficient carbohydrates, both of which promote lipolysis, taking B3 may make you feel worse and may not be worth it at this point in time. Then we have vitamin B5, pantothenic acid, which is often referred to as the anti-stress vitamin due to its role in supporting the body's response to stress. So here's a quote from Dr. Ray Peat. Quote, "Pantothenic acid in very large doses was recently found to protect against stress even when an animal's adrenals were removed. Since the nutrient is needed to destroy insulin, I think part of its anti-stress effect comes from minimizing hypoglycemia and so reducing the amount of cortisone needed," end quote. So many people have experienced, I personally have, low back pain or soreness in the lumbar region. And this can sometimes be a referral pain or inflammation from the adrenal glands due to being in a very stressed state. Taking vitamin B5 can help resolve this and lessen the pain, in addition to obviously addressing the large life stress sources that are leading to this to begin with. The remainder of the B vitamins are, of course, important to obtain, but typically are not supplemented in or needed to supplement if you're consuming animal products. However, a quality and properly balanced vitamin B complex can be helpful in just ensuring you're obtaining all these nutrients each day without concern of overdosing. The B complex can help balance out total B vitamin intake if you're supplementing one in isolation, because they're all in balance. And that's the benefit of whole foods. Everything is balanced as the body is used to. So if you are taking vitamin B1 or vitamin B3 regularly right now, you may want to make sure that all your other B vitamins intake match that, because again, these balances, or adding in a B complex while you're taking these isolated B vitamins. However, there are some people that really react negatively to B complexes. So again, starting slow and adding things one by one. B vitamins are mostly water soluble, so your body will pee extra out, but you should closely monitor symptoms. I really don't think you need a B complex if you aren't taking one of the B vitamins in isolation, which again should only be seasonal if needed. Eating occasional liver and then eating dairy, pork or beef, and egg yolks daily. This is a great way to get enough B vitamins from your diet. Potatoes and sourdough bread are also great sources of B vitamins. So eating a well-balanced omnivorous diet is a great way to make sure that you're getting enough of these nutrients. All right, next up, vitamin K2. So this is also called the X factor, discovered by Dr. Weston A. Price. Vitamin K2 is a super nutrient. It is a fat-soluble vitamin that plays a crucial role in calcium regulation, making sure to get calcium out of the soft tissue and instead deliver to the bones and teeth where it belongs. K2 also helps restore metabolic health since it serves as an emergency electron carrier when cells are in reductive stress. And that's, again, when we have electron buildup. So K2 can help restore proper electron flow and metabolism. Since K2 fights reductive stress, it can help reverse insulin resistance and mitochondrial dysfunction. Vitamin K2 also helps to facilitate cellular energy production, support bone and dental health, improve cardiovascular and heart health, regulate blood pressure, protect against soft tissue and arterial calcification, improve testosterone production, regulate nervous system and brain health. And so supplementing a few times a week can be beneficial if you're not consuming enough dietarily. If you don't consume dairy, if you take aspirin, if you have dental problems, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, or wrinkled skin, definitely look into supplementing a few times a week. And for supplements, it's best to choose one with a diverse K spectrum, where it combines forms like MK4 and MK7, and try to avoid carrier oils that are higher in PUFA, like sunflower oil or other vegetable oils. So supplement a few times a week if you're not hitting enough dietarily. And of course, when you are supplementing, consume it with a meal that contains some fat since it is a fat soluble vitamin. If you are coming out of a vegetarian or vegan diet, you may not have enough built up in your system and you may need to supplement more regularly for a period of time. Because again, this is something that will build up over time. Start with the dosage on the bottle and increase very slowly if needed or necessary. Next up, vitamin D. So, as we've discussed in the micronutrient section, having elevated levels of 25 OHD near 50 is vital for optimal functioning of the thyroid and metabolism. And for some people to achieve this, they may need to supplement with vitamin D3 for 1 to 3 months in the winter. A low vitamin D status could actually be one of the metabolic breaks that may be preventing you from raising your metabolism. Now, obviously, the best way to get our vitamin D is through sunlight exposure, since there are so many other benefits to the sun than just increasing vitamin D. Plus, you can't overdose in this situation, since once your body has enough, your skin just simply produces less vitamin D. And again, as a reminder, you can use something called the D-Minder app on your phone to determine how much sun exposure you need in a given day to hit your vitamin D intake. So the app uses your location and time of year to estimate vitamin D synthesis. However, extra sunlight is not always an option for everyone, especially in dark winters. I'm in Michigan here, so I understand short, dark days in the winter. One option to boost your vitamin D levels without adequate sun exposure is something called a Spurdy lamp, and it is a UVB lamp. And I've used this over the past few winters, and I've been able to keep vitamin D levels high. However, this is sometimes not an option because it is expensive. The Spurdy lamp is about $500. However, there is nothing wrong with using vitamin D3 supplementation, and sometimes it is necessary to raise and maintain elevated 25 OHD levels. So, vitamin D3 is more effective at raising 25 OHD levels relative to vitamin D2 supplements, and vitamin D2 supplements are often of lower quality. However, remember that vitamin D3 can be stored. So if you live in northern states, try to maximize the amount of sun that you are getting near the end of the summer, and then your body will have some stored up as you head into winter. And then you could use some vitamin D3 supplementation in, December, January, February, potentially March timeline as needed. And then in the remaining months, you don't need to take D3 and just get your vitamin D3 levels up through sun exposure. As a note, however, vitamin D supplementation does require careful balance with other fat-soluble vitamins like retinol and K2, and then also adequate calcium and magnesium consumption because, again, the body functions as a systemic whole. The fat-soluble vitamins work together, and overdoing one without balancing another can cause issues. So I don't think you ever need to overdose vitamin D3. And again, start small, 1,000 to 5,000 IU, and then slowly increase the dose if needed, making sure that you're consuming enough retinol, K2, calcium, and magnesium. You can get blood work done every 2 to 4 months to monitor your D3 status until you reach that optimal level. And for D3 supplementation, you can just place drops in a liquid source and consume orally. You can drop it on the inside of your gum. However, for those that don't digest vitamin D3 well, you can also apply it topically through transdermal application. This could be one way where you can bypass digestion and then minimize any potential gut distress. So, in a study of 48 women who had low 25 OHD levels, after 3 months of applying a topical D3 cream containing 5,000 IU, their average levels rose from 12 up to 38. Example topical vitamin D options. One is Idea Labs. So each drop is 1,000 IU. So anywhere from 1 to 5 drops a day is a safe, small dose that can help boost your levels and thyroid function. As a note, though, only about 20% of transdermal is absorbed. So make sure to factor that in when you're documenting dosages for experiments. If you are supplementing and you're still having a hard time raising your 25 OHD levels after several months, we would suggest looking into your boron intake, since boron plays a role in the synthesis of 25 OHD. So this would involve eating more boron rich foods, which are largely fruits like grapes, raisins, avocados, peaches, apples, or looking into a boron supplement to add to your water if needed. In summary, if you can, treat sunlight as an essential daily nutrient. We can technically stock up on vitamin D in the summer months to make it through the winter months since our body can store some. However, we would advise getting your 25 OHD levels tested in the winter months to determine if you need to supplement, since we want those optimal levels to support our thyroids. So maybe you could test your levels in the summer and winter and then experiment what supplementation is needed to maintain the levels. Next up, vitamin E. So, vitamin E is another fat soluble vitamin with its main role to act as an antioxidant to help protect against the negative effects of estrogen and PUFAs. But everyone's needs for vitamin E will vary quite a bit. So, for example, vitamin E needs may increase in the short term as someone's PUFA consumption increases. So, here's a quote, the vitamin E requirement will increase with an increase in PUFA consumption and with the degree of unsaturation of the PUFA in the diet, end quote. So, that's a quote from the literature. So, basically, the more PUFAs you consume in your diet, the higher amounts of vitamin E you may need in the short term to protect against oxidation. But the goal is to not eat a high PUFA diet, remember. If someone is in a fat loss phase, their vitamin E needs may slightly increase since they are burning and oxidizing a lot of body fat, and some of that body fat may be stored PUFA. So the vitamin E can be protective to help prevent excess damage caused by potential PUFA oxidation. However, even though some people in the health space love vitamin E, this is a supplement I have really mixed thoughts on, as there's a lot of conflicting data. So again, yet another supplement to proceed with caution on. One review of around 500 studies on vitamin E didn't show too much benefit to supplementation, so not much to write home about. But if you feel objectively better taking some form of vitamin E, sure, go ahead. But then there are some people who really react negatively, like have breakouts all over their chin from taking vitamin E. Another supplement to pay attention to what the carrier oil is. So try not to use a supplement that has a high PUFA carrier oil. Shoot for maybe MCT oil or olive oil. And then if you are going to consume it, make sure you're consuming it with a meal that contains some amount of fat for better absorption. So despite what many people say, I actually think many people get plenty in their diets, especially if you're eating a lower PUFA diet since your needs aren't as high. And many animal fats like lard, tallow, butter, beef fat, eggs, and dairy actually contain vitamin E. However, many food databases, including the USDA's, which Chronometer pulls from, have not always tested for or included vitamin E information. And the vitamin E level in animal fats can really vary based on the animal's diet. And we all know that the USDA probably tested more conventional meat. So animals that graze on grass tend to have much higher levels of it in their fat. So while there may be short-term benefits, here are my problems with vitamin E and why I don't think it should be taken for long periods of time, if at all. We've discussed extensively now that most people have metabolic problems, and the reason they have metabolic problems is because of reductive stress, which is characterized by a low NAD plus to NADH ratio and too many electrons hanging out. Antioxidants like vitamin E are double-edged swords. They can reduce the toxicity of PUFA and reduce PUFA oxidation in the short term, but at the same time, they themselves can be oxidized. So in the long run, they can make matters worse if you're supplementing high doses. So electron donors, they have the potential to generate reactive oxygen species by donating the electron to oxygen instead, creating superoxide. So antioxidants are electron donors, and they step in to quickly give an electron to any superoxide molecules that come sniffing around and try to snatch an electron away from PUFA. This then stops the PUFA from being oxidized. So if vitamin E is donating an electron to a situation where there are too many electrons, won't that make reductive stress worse? So Brad Marshall phrased it as, quote, this is akin to saying, the baby is drowning, add more bath water. So the current theory on antioxidants that's much of mainstream, it may be wrong. Instead, researchers are calling it the antioxidant paradox. Supplementing with antioxidants either doesn't stop oxidative stress or potentially adds to it, aggravating inflammatory disease in the long run. If you're curious, there are plenty of papers now discussing this antioxidant paradox. And so this term is often used to refer to the observation that oxygen radicals and other reactive oxygen species are involved in several human diseases. But giving large doses of dietary antioxidant supplements, such as vitamin E, these studies with human subjects have, in most studies, demonstrated little or no preventative or therapeutic effect. Other studies show that it can actually increase oxidative stress and lower metabolic rate with long term usage. And then another study showed a negative result on strength and hypertrophy with strength training. Quote, we concluded that vitamin C and vitamin E supplementation interfered with the acute cellular response to heavy load resistance exercise and demonstrated tentative long term negative effects on adaptation to strength training, end quote. Vitamin E is actually a group of 8 compounds, 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols. Unfortunately, most vitamin E supplements contain only alpha tocopherol. Even worse, many of these supplements contain synthetic vitamin E made from petroleum, and, quote, natural vitamin E products are often made from soy, which then usually contains GMOs, and then weird carrier PUFA oils, leading to more potential dietary issues, digestion discomfort. And so this fact may be why many conventional vitamin E supplements on the market don't show benefit in the literature. And they have been shown to actually potentially increase the risk of cancer and heart disease and are correlated with an increase in mortality. So maybe the type of vitamin E used in all these studies is what's causing some of these issues. Because if you check out the work of Dr. Bari Tan, he's been studying tocotrienols for 30 years, and he recommends annatto-based tocotrienols because they have no alpha tocopherols to inhibit the functions and benefits of tocotrienols. So tocotrienols are a recently discovered form of vitamin E that may have better health benefits and a better safety profile than tocopherols, the more common form of vitamin E that's used in most supplements today. So that was a long way of saying if you are going to use a vitamin E supplement, try to find one that contains a wider spectrum of the different types of vitamin E that may be the most natural. So to summarize, more research is really needed to fully understand the effects of antioxidant supplementation. Vitamin E is an antioxidant. If you consume a high PUFA diet right now, or you may be oxidizing a lot of stored PUFA during a fat loss phase, perhaps some vitamin E can be helpful. And if it feels like it's helping you, keep going. But I don't think it's required. And there are a lot of people who do not do well on isolated vitamin E supplements. I really prefer to get this through food. I tend to have a lot of breakouts when I take vitamin E supplementation. Remember, your body's pretty good at balancing electron flow and redox if you feed it right with the low PUFA diet. Vitamin C is another difficult topic because it's an antioxidant. I really don't think it's something you should get from an isolated supplement since it can be found in abundance in whole foods. Plus, many vitamin C supplements on the market today can actually contain a lot of contaminants and fillers. However, there are good whole food supplement sources of it. Vitamin C, it's a water-soluble nutrient, meaning it's not stored, so we should be consuming it regularly, and it's very beneficial to the healing process for collagen synthesis. So we've been taught to think that vitamin C is synonymous with ascorbic acid, but ascorbic acid is just one part of whole food real vitamin C, which is an extremely complex molecule that contains 5 copper ions, manganese, zinc, selenium, phosphorus, magnesium, bioflavonoids, tyrosinase, and ascorbic, and then ascorbic acid is part of that as well. So this is just an example of a working mechanism which functions optimally when all of the parts are present in the whole food matrix. I'm not saying that synthetic ascorbic acid is toxic. It's not, but whole food vitamin C sources just come with a lot more benefits without the allergenicity possibility in pill ingredients. So when in doubt, just go with whole food sources. So the best sources are going to be fresh fruit like oranges, kiwis, strawberries, and then peppers and orange juice. Meat actually contains some amount of vitamin C as well. And so in general, if you're consuming these foods, and you're getting enough in your diet, then supplementation really isn't necessary. But if you are looking into a whole food powder form, some options are camu camu or acerola powder. Next up, magnesium. So, magnesium is a critical component to energy production, and without it, our bodies are less efficient at creating energy and therefore less efficient at performing every single other task needed to support us. So, this mineral is responsible for activating over 40% of the enzymes in our bodies to help with functions that include maintaining blood pressure, relaxing muscles, lowering stress, synthesizing hormones from cholesterol, allowing for proper heart function, regulating calcium levels, and more. In fact, 3,751 proteins have magnesium binding sites, meaning magnesium runs over 3,000 functions in the body. And some people can be low in magnesium due to a number of factors, including chronic stress, excessive toxin exposure, fluoride in water, lifestyle habits like poor sleep quality, high alcohol consumption, intense sports and exercise, and then poor soil health, which can lead to some depletion of some minerals in our food. However, as a note, as you work on improving your metabolism, you won't need to supplement as much or at all. So here's a quote from Dr. Ray Peat, quote, "Getting enough sodium in the diet helps to retain magnesium, but both of them are lost easily when your thyroid function is low. When the thyroid status is good, the requirement for magnesium is easily met by ordinary foods," end quote. Remember, food contains magnesium. Potatoes, fruit juices, squashes. But it's also okay to go through times when you need a little bit more magnesium support from supplementation. One of my favorite ways to supplement magnesium is through mineral water, as this is the form our ancestors consumed regularly in their drinking water. So, Gerolsteiner sparkling mineral water contains 108 milligrams of magnesium per liter. So the magnesium found in sparkling mineral water is in the form of magnesium ions and is really naturally occurring in the mineral content of the water. I don't do any other magnesium support right now, just occasional sparkling mineral water and then on top of the food that I'm consuming. Now, for oral, pill, or powder supplementation, our favorite forms are magnesium malate, magnesium glycinate, or magnesium biglycinate. And so the bis and biglycinate indicates that there are two glycine molecules bound to each magnesium ion, which can enhance its stability and absorption. Malate tends to be more of an energizing form of magnesium. So if you're going to have this one, do take it in the morning. Glycinate tends to be more of a calming form due to the glycine molecule that's attached to magnesium. So it's best to have this form at night. Magnesium glycinate is probably one of my favorites since it has that glycine molecule attached. And we've discussed that glycine is a very beneficial amino acid. Magnesium threonate seems to be really popular right now. However, the clinical trials are mixed, and there's only observational data suggesting that it might work. I really didn't notice a difference using this form, and it was actually pretty stimulating for me, keeping me up at night. And I also know several others who haven't really noticed significant benefits. It's a lot pricier. So if that's something you want to experiment with or you notice you do well with, go for it. But I really like magnesium glycinate and taking that at night. If you need to supplement, again, I'm not even taking it right now. There are periods of time where you may have benefit. I think that transdermal magnesium from time to time is very beneficial for everyone. And so, for example, taking a bath where you're absorbing some magnesium through your skin. Magnesium soaks have been used for thousands of years, and this would really be the best way for someone to supplement some extra magnesium if they have any gut or digestive issues with oral supplementation. So you can have magnesium salt flakes or Epsom salt for your baths. And these two compounds are a little bit different. So magnesium flakes, that's going to be magnesium plus chloride. Epsom salt, that's magnesium plus sulfate. And on a molecular level, the magnesium sulfate through Epsom salt, this compound dissociates into one magnesium and one sulfate ion, and magnesium chloride in these magnesium salt flakes, it becomes one magnesium ion and two chloride ions. So magnesium chloride has actually been shown to be more easily assimilated and more bioavailable, whereas magnesium sulfate may not be as easily absorbed and can be excreted more rapidly through the kidneys. So when in doubt, if you have the option, magnesium salt flakes are going to be the better option, but both are very beneficial, especially because Epsom salt is more widely available and cheaper. One tip is to add 1/4 to half a cup of baking soda to your baths to improve your magnesium absorption. Another option is magnesium spray, which is magnesium chloride plus water. and it's a very convenient transdermal supplement. So this would be really beneficial to target specific areas on the body like sore muscles. With all supplements, we recommend starting slow and working your way up. And so if you're interested in magnesium, potentially try 2 options. Introduce one at a time and try supplementing with those 2. Some people will do better with different forms than others. So, for example, sparkling mineral water like Gerolsteiner and an Epsom salt bath or magnesium salt flake bath a few times a week. Another option, try magnesium glycinate at night along with a few baths a week in Epsom salt or magnesium flakes. If you start to get an upset stomach or loose stools, then reduce your supplementation. That's a sign that you're doing too much magnesium. And also remember that your needs will go up or down over time, so always assess if something is still beneficial for you. I personally like to up my dosage when I know I'm going through a little bit of a stressful time, since the higher the cortisol, the more magnesium we may need. Otherwise, I typically stick to sparkling mineral water, my diet, and then taking some baths a few nights a week. Next up, calcium. Sometimes calcium supplementation is necessary to balance out a high phosphorus diet, especially if dairy is not consumed at the moment. Calcium is necessary to regulate the parathyroid gland and lower stress. The only calcium supplements we would recommend include bone meal powder and pearl powder or homemade eggshell powder, all of which have a high calcium to phosphorus ratio. These are also all whole food sources and are a lot more bioavailable than the synthetic calcium sources. Homemade eggshell powder is definitely the more cost-effective option and is a great way to use your eggshells rather than throwing them in the trash. As a rough approximation, 1/4 teaspoon is about 500 milligrams of calcium, and half a teaspoon is about 1,000 milligrams of calcium. It's also important to point out that sparkling mineral water brands like Gerolsteiner can be a significant source of calcium as well. So, for example, Gerolsteiner contains approximately 348 milligrams of calcium per one of these bottles. Crazy high. Next up, Pau de Arco. So, what is Pau de Arco? It is a quinone. Quinones are oxidizing agents with a high affinity for electrons, making them electron acceptors that can oxidize NADH back to NAD+, thus increasing cellular NAD+ to NADH ratio, which means better systemic energy flow and energy production. So, helping someone get out of reductive stress. Quinones help cells get out of a reduced state and lower reductive stress, because when energy is downregulated, NAD plus to NADH ratio is low and there's too many electrons hanging out. 2 examples of quinones that we get from food include vitamin K2, like we've discussed, and that comes from aged cheese, healthy animal fats, and then also CoQ10, which is high in beef heart. But an additional support includes Pau de Arco tea, where the active compound is beta, I don't know how to pronounce this, beta lapacone, basically a type of quinone. So Pau de Arco contains quinones that can help us with reductive stress. Quote, being quinones, both emodin and beta lapacone found in Pau de Arco are intimately involved in the proper functioning of the electron transport chain, the recycling of NADH back to NAD, and protecting from the systemic effects of stress and aging. In addition to these metabolic systemic effects, both quinones have been shown to have a staggering array of effects, including protecting from radiation, hypoxia, inflammation, endotoxin, diabetes, cortisol, aldosterone, estrogen, prolactin, serotonin, histamine, nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and even the aging process in general. Given their profoundly systemic effects, it's very likely that these 2 quinones can contribute to improved well-being and resistance to stress, aging, and fragility. And this is a quote from Georgi Dinkov. Regular Pau de Arco tea consumption is a great overall metabolic support with NAD plus promoting effects. Now let's cover a few support tools that you can utilize with flu, cold, or allergy symptoms. So for allergies, we really like the histamine and immune supplement from Heart and Soil. So it's going to contain kidney, and various other combination of organs that can help provide your body the tools it needs to lower histamine and fight allergies. Another option is cyproheptadine and Benadryl. And so these are both first generation antihistamines, meaning they block histamine receptors to relieve symptoms like itching, sneezing, and runny noses. So, again, focus on the relieving symptoms and not fixing the root cause, but they can be helpful when you're in, a really terrible allergy state. So, cyproheptadine, it's an antihistamine, but it brings drowsiness. In addition to its antihistamine effects, it has some anti-serotogenic properties, which means it can block serotonin receptors as well, which is a good thing. Remember, serotonin is not the happy hormone. And then Benadryl, making sure that you choose dye-free. It's purely an antihistamine and is most often used for allergy relief, treating symptoms like a runny nose, itching, and hives. Now, for cold relief, rest is going to be number one. Rest, rest, rest. Also, increase your consumption of soups and stews, which is going to give you a lot of collagen and gelatin from the broth. And then another support tool would be the Immune Biotic product from Earthly. It's a specific mix of herbs, and it is not intended for daily support, but it is formulated for extra support while you have a cold. Next up, aspirin. Aspirin, what are you talking about? There are thousands of studies documenting health improvements from taking aspirin, yet there is so much controversy over whether it is safe to supplement with. It is safe, and it is very different from other NSAIDs like Tylenol. So, aspirin was originally used as a substitute for salicylate medicines, which in of themselves have been used for their health benefits for 3,500 years. So, salicylates work by inhibiting the production of certain enzymes that contribute to inflammation and pain. Our ancestors actually utilized this over time because willow bark is a natural source of salicylates, particularly salicin, which is a compound that the body metabolizes into salicylic acid. So, this chemical process is similar to how aspirin works, making willow bark a traditional remedy for pain relief and inflammation. From the lens of energy production, there are several ways in which aspirin is very metabolically supportive. By interfering with fatty acid synthesis, aspirin supports glucose metabolism, which stimulates metabolism and can reduce free fatty acids, which are increased by stress. Aspirin is protective against iron toxicity by helping to lower serum ferritin, something that's been documented in the literature demonstrating aspirin can help extend lifespan and inhibit cancer through decreasing body iron, as cancer cells are notoriously iron hungry. Aspirin also protects against lipid peroxidation, which helps to improve electron flow to oxygen by increasing CO2 and decreasing nitric oxide. And this can help to lower systemic inflammation, improve glucose oxidation, and stimulate mitochondrial respiration. Aspirin is particularly beneficial for women struggling with fertility due to interfering with cyclooxygenase enzyme, which helps to reduce prostaglandin production and improve uterine circulation. There are studies documenting women with a tendency to miscarry or to develop preeclampsia. They'll improve their fertility and the health of the child by the use of aspirin. It can also reduce parathyroid hormone, which can negatively impact energy production, and the production of which is increased when someone is intaking a low calcium diet. Now, not everyone needs aspirin. Not everyone does well with aspirin. Some people react very negatively, but it can be helpful in some situations to get our bodies back to homeostasis. And again, I don't think it should be used every single day. Instead, used on occasion. And for dosing, start with 100 to 400 milligrams of aspirin and slowly increase up if needed. If you are taking large doses, try again splitting it up into 2 doses throughout the day. And when you're taking aspirin, it's important to make sure that you are being very mindful of your vitamin K2 intake, since aspirin can thin the blood, and then K2 has the opposite effect. You don't have to take K2 at the same time. Just make sure that you're eating enough K2 throughout the day. Taking aspirin even just one time a month can be helpful for some individuals for just systemic support, especially with systemic inflammation. And if it doesn't make you feel good, don't worry about it. It's not necessary for health. Instead, it's a tool. Not all aspirin products are the same, and the brand is important because many contain titanium dioxide, dyes, and other toxic ingredients. So if you are going to try it out, we recommend using the following options. For pill and convenience, you can use Jerry Care. There's no dyes. For pure powder form, we really like the product from Health Natura, or one that's actually made for animals, Animed Aniprin P, which can be ordered on Amazon, and it is a pure powder form. For some people, they can experience digestive discomfort. And if you have that, you can try dissolving it in water, adding it to warm water and a pinch of baking soda and letting it sit for a few minutes until dissolved. You can also try experimenting with different times of day. And if it's taken on an empty stomach, some people do tolerate it much better with food. Now, here is a list of things we do not recommend supplementing with. First, fish oils. These could actually be holding you back for long-term health improvements, like flax fish oil. And so these are going to be rich in omega-3 PUFAs, and we discuss this in depth in the PUFA section. Making better food choices will improve your health a lot more than taking a fish oil pill. But fish oil and omega-3 supplements, these are big business. They're very profitable, and they want you to think otherwise, that you need these. But in our opinion, this is not a supplement you want to be taking long term due to excessive levels of oxidation, lipofuscin, and cellular damage. Always remember that symptom suppression is a lot different than root cause healing. Many fish oil brands are already oxidized before you digest them. And then for those that claim that have superior storage, omega-3 PUFAs can oxidize during digestion as well. Our digestion involves a number of complex processes like emulsification, and the temperature inside of our digestive tract is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Essentially, our digestive tract presents an environment for these unstable fatty acids to oxidize. Many people ask us about cod liver oil, which is technically different from fish oil since it contains more MUFAs relative to PUFAs, and fish oil's higher in PUFAs, particularly omega-3s. But we would prefer that you get your retinol in from occasional liver or freeze-dried whole food liver supplement, since there is still some oxidation potential with cod liver oil, and this is documented in the literature. But if you're doing well in cod liver oil, then you just keep doing that. Next up, zinc. So zinc in isolation can compete with copper and create a copper deficiency. It really is best to get zinc from whole food sources like oyster or a freeze-dried oyster supplement. And so if zinc supplementation is warranted, and there are situations where it is, just make sure that you're ensuring sufficient copper consumption alongside of it. Iron, we discussed this in depth in the iron section. We do not recommend megadosing oral vitamin D, large doses, which can deplete cholesterol, magnesium, retinol, and copper. We do not recommend generic calcium supplements, which are not properly balanced with other minerals and can have poor bioavailability and high heavy metal levels. We do not recommend general and generic multivitamins, which are full of random amounts of vitamins that can lead to overdosing on certain things while depleting other nutrients. They also contain a lot of fillers. Get your vitamins from whole foods. We also don't recommend taking just copper. It really is best to get this in whole foods in the bioavailable form. We do not recommend probiotics. We dive into this more in the gut health module, but there's really no way to know if they actually make it to your large intestine. Plus, your large intestine has to have the right internal environment, high CO2, for certain bacteria to survive. So you really need to make sure that you're fixing your gut health state first. Also, do not recommend fat burners, which are really not that effective and are a waste of money. Instead, fix your metabolic rate, consume coffee, caffeine, and be mindful of how much you're eating and be active. We also don't recommend BCAAs. These aren't bad, and they can be beneficial for someone, but I think are a waste of money. If you're getting enough protein in your diet through animal products, adding more BCAAs is not necessarily beneficial. And then random herbal products. So many herbal products can contain very concentrated doses, which can have implications on systemic and hormonal health. Remember, our ancestors used herbs as medicine. So instead, use like herbs topically on your food. Like if you get some parsley, rosemary, put that on your food. But it's important to remember that like supplements are very concentrated doses. Plus, the quantity and purity is always questionable. Here is a quote from Levita Compounding Pharmacy. They reported, quote, "A recent investigation by the FDA found that major retailers were selling fraudulent and potentially dangerous herbal supplements, that 4 out of the 5 products did not contain any of the herbs listed on their labels. The test showed that pills labeled medicinal herbs often contained little more than cheap fillers like powdered rice and household plants, and even substances that could be dangerous to those with allergies." So, in summary, take a whole food approach since food is the most powerful source of vitamins and minerals. You can hit the RDAs through daily food consumption. Supplement where necessary to support your body. We're all at different points along our healing journeys. Some supplements are therapeutic and can help us return to homeostasis and regain balance. But don't supplement because you think you should supplement. Unnecessary and excessive supplementation can throw off mineral and vitamin levels, causing imbalances and other sorts of issues. So, when in doubt, test, don't guess. Be strategic with adding in supplements and provide an honest evaluation as to whether or not they're doing anything or if you feel worse. And remember that our needs for certain nutrients can be seasonal and change over time. So, supplements can be seasonal in usage. For the supplements discussed in this module, we include links and discount codes for product options and a PDF resource to check out if you are interested.